A young girl with a dream to take care of the underprivileged in an orphanage was to take shape. Every move she made was to take care of the poor, homeless, weak. This woman felt truly blessed to save them, whatever harm they might be suffering. The homelessness, sometimes 30 people at a time. She housed drug users on Long Island during its epidemic. She heard God say to her to acquire land and become self-sufficient and help the people that you can help. She has saved over 1,000 people with clothes and money. She is known as the woman who saves others. And how do you change the world? When you don't expect anything back. That's how you do it. As time goes by, more and more of them are and will remember her for the good that she intends. So then, why does our government not want that kind of thing to happen? I have with me Mary Tooker, who was a victim of Suffolk County and the attempt at thieving some of her property. And the program title is A Visit to the I Love God trailer, because she's famous for having a God-written I Love God on the trailer. Am I correct?
I love you, God, thank you.
I love you, God, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
It's okay.
A man once said to you, Marie, in my worst condition, you saved me from despair, and I will never forget you. And I remember that you said that in your quote. So you started this when 9/11 happened? That was the instigating reason for the genesis for all this?
No, the farm came to me before 9/11. And because of 9/11, the farm became worth almost $100 million. And that's how the political world tried to shut me down. They offered me $30 million to walk away, and I refused. So they did everything in their power to stop me, and they succeeded very well until today.
Yeah, today is the blessing day for you.
Today is the blessing day. Today they will go to order me with the federal marshals, probably one of the only people in Suffolk County, to have our federal marshals remove me by force, my children and I, from the farm after my father handed over the keys at the end of May. When my father surrendered is why I said that I need to tell God out loud and write on the tractor trailer, I love you, God, thank you.
So this is the first day of the rest of your life. When you and I were talking, even as recently as last night, I felt the trauma in your voice, although you did hold up very well because you've been through this for a while. You're kind of used to it. It's like a punching bag after it keeps coming back, right?
Yes, it is. It's a ping pong table, punching bag, roller coaster, merry-go-round. Today, it's hope.
So Suffolk County leased out the property. You want to start from there and tell me how that worked out?
After I took care of the homeless and Southampton was opposing what I was doing, their words to me was, they're never going to help me because I'm housing the black crackheads. And so they did everything to shut me down. They came in, they kicked the doors in, they told the tenants not to pay their rent anymore, and they caused me we became in danger. And that's when I leased it to the county, is when I bought the farm, thinking that the county would take my position, they'd have power behind them, they would do the right thing, and continue on taking care of the poor while I started the farm. The county, Nana's House, Never Alone, Never Afraid, wind up being not a very nice agency. They destroyed the property, put me through litigation, stopped paying the rent, and did everything to steal the property. I fought it, finally won.
How long was that fight?
That took a couple of years. They finally surrendered, I think at the 2006, from 2002. And to only find out in 2015, the end of 2015, that they actually was caught. The paper says that they were overpaid $1.4 million. Don't fully quote me on that, but I think it was $1.4 million of overpayment. Which, how do you get an overpayment? How does the county overpay an agency? who's overlooking that?
Yeah.
Here I did it with $100
That's not
a week.
$1.40 or $10.40.
Exactly.
It's 1.4 million. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I housed the homeless with $100 a week with their own money. I refuse to allow any of my people that I help go on any kind of public assistance unless they really needed it. So if they were in trouble, they didn't have any money, they would help mow the lawn, they'd paint the fences, they'd fix the fences, they would gladly want to help in exchange for their room, their bed, and everything and anything they needed. When it came time to help everyone, they used to say, "Oh, does everybody run away?" No, it was the opposite. They all used to sit on the stairs and wait for me to come, and they would ask, okay, who needed help, who needed a suit for an interview, who needed a car, who needed their insurance
and
paid.
you never need to concern yourself with your safety. You felt comfortable with the people that were there. You were helping them. They felt comfortable with you. So it's a mutual relationship that you had developed that worked very well for everyone.
Well, I wasn't afraid at first, but it did get sometimes a little hectic. The state troopers used to say, when they were very good to me at that point, we're surprised we don't find you in the water dead. And I'm like, I'm helping them. There's no reason for them to want to hurt me. It became a family unity. 85% of the
Some people would say that's a little risky, but you did it
It
well.
was risky.
Yeah.
I was held hostage on the second floor. I did have paintball guns to my head. There were times that I had problems, but the majority, 85%, made it. That's huge.
Yeah.
And they did it because they had a roof over their head, they had food, and they had hope. And the hope is the most important, because whatever their position was at that time, I didn't know I didn't interview them to see what happened in their lives. So God was giving them, if it was their 30th chance, their 100th chance, their first chance, I had no say in that. I just opened the door. They said, go to the White House, see Marie, she'll help you, and that's how they came.
Just like a thorough word of mouth, so to
It
speak.
became word of mouth. It was wonderful. And then the town stepped in. And they rallied everybody up, and they stopped
The town
me.
of Southampton.
The town of Southampton.
Right.
They wanted the property after 9/11, and they did everything to shut me down.
And
Everything.
give me some of the things that they've done, because it was a little alarming to hear it.
Southampton protected the drugs on my property. They stationed the drugs. They had prostitution and drugs on this property. And my children and I were under siege for a long time. They would call the police, and instead of the police protecting me, even though they knew all these people had a criminal record or convicted of some kind of crime, they would come and protect them and terrorize me and my children. Like, for instance, hot water was running out of the building at 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't get in the building because they wouldn't let me, so I would shut the valve off on the outside,
Right.
so the hot water wouldn't run.
Right.
Cops would come and says, if you don't turn on the water, I don't care that the water's running out of the building, you're going to go to jail.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff. isn't
So, okay, so now I'm going to go to jail,
That's
but then
harassment.
you call the Board of Health and say there's hot water running out of the building.
And it gets
So they'd
back,
set me
yeah,
up. I
yeah.
get code violations for the water,
Right.
or things like that, but yet they told me if I shut the water, I was going to jail. So they completely protected them. I put a video camera, I put a fence up, I try to stop them, and the police completely protected them. They even came one time, and the person was stealing the wood.
Police
I caught him.
protected
The criminals,
and the criminals were
drug
from-
dealers, drug addicts, runners.
And how did that happen? I mean, how did it get to the point where somebody would ordinarily be taken in was supported?
Actually, all those tenants that I took care of were gone. When I went back to the farm, I walked away from this property because they destroyed it. They completely went into the house, kicked all the doors in, broke the windows, broke the 100-year-old
say they,
mantles.
do you have any pictures of
oh
videos
yeah,
of
there's
this?
lots of pictures.
And who were they?
Someone came, felt bad, wrote an affidavit, and told me who it was. But I don't want to say right now who
Okay.
they were. But they were caught. We called the police. The police said it's a civil matter. even though my property was destroyed.
Yeah, so people who tend to think, oh, well, we're going to let government take care of us, and government's going to take care of this particular thing and that particular thing. There you go. Why it's better to take control of yourself in your own life, and try not to let the government get involved in your doings.
Well, isn't that the goal? You become a parent and you raise your children. The first step you want is them to become independent.
Right. That's a personal goal, right?
That's your freedom. That's your inner freedom when you become independent.
You had a depletable asset, one that could be taken advantage of.
Yes,
and
they did take advantage.
To know that government would step in and take care of that, or to be interested in that, or confiscate it in any which way, that's a sad testimony to the state of the condition of government.
Yes, and how we know that they were part of that, when they thought they were going to get the property in 2007, you know that a year before they assessed the tax value. My taxes were like $23,000. The year they thought they were going to get it, so they knew they premeditated it the year before, because they have to tell what the tax is going to be for the following year. The taxes, the year they thought they were going to get it, dropped to $8,000 a year from $23,000. Mm-hmm. How does that happen?
Right.
Without me grieving it, without me going for anything, they just dropped the taxes. It's complete evidence that they were conspiring to steal.
Of their conspiracy. No
they just handed it to me.
What about some of these things that happened to you that were, you said you were beaten and things occurred? You were under siege. Your family was under siege.
We were under siege. They came that day with a fake warrant and said that I owed them money. Came to the door 2 hours later. It was on Columbus Day, so how would they get, it was a closed day, so how would they get a warrant? Said I owed them money, came with this fake warrant, knocked at my door. I had no shoes on. They said, well, we have a warrant. I said, well, let me see the warrant. They wouldn't show me the warrant. I said, let me just get shoes on. And instead of that, they slammed open the door, and I was recording. They were trying to grab the recorder. Two cops slammed the doors open, attacked me in my house, knocked me down to the ground, beat me up in front of my children, and wanted the recording. They didn't realize that my children were home. They came around the corner. The little one was hiding, petrified, my poor son.
Yeah, he had to see that, yeah.
He doesn't trust the cops, especially the ones with the black cars, which was Southampton.
Yeah.
He says, there's a black cop car. He knew right away.
Yeah.
But my older one, I was able to, as I was going to the ground, I was able to hand him over the recorder, so they didn't get their hands on it. It did shut off, but he was able to put it back on. In the meantime, his friend was there, video exactly what they were doing. And they were ready to take their tasers out and taser me.
Jeez.
And my son saved me. And they didn't know what video coverage I had, so when they wrote their report, they said I was so out of control they had to almost use force. So they wrote it in their report that they used force because they weren't sure what level of video coverage I had. But I didn't use force. Then, when they realized that I didn't owe them the money, they charged me with resisting arrest. So they continued on their game, even though they falsely arrested me.
At that point, if you had to say, as being an honest person, what kind of crime were you committing to engender all this action by the police? What would you call that crime?
A debt? If there was.
If there was, and there probably wasn't.
It wasn't a debt.
Right.
I didn't owe it to them.
So it was what? Nothing.
It was absolutely nothing. It was just complete harassment.
So government acting upon itself to create a crime had to develop something.
They made it all up. It was all fabricated.
They made it all up.
To protect the drug dealer. It wasn't even that it was just they had the warrant and it was legit and they made a mistake.
Yeah.
It happened the day that this person was stealing my wood.
Yeah.
Now, they made him bring the wood back, but they didn't arrest him. They should have arrested him for stealing.
It's amazing. Sometimes you have to think about, well, who are the people that you need to go to when you need help? And ordinarily you would go to the police when you need help. I can't think of a reason why I would be in that same place. That's not my point. But you were clearly in that place where you wouldn't have gone to the police for help.
Every town of Brookhaven, town of Southampton, town of Riverhead, when the cops were called against me, there's probably almost 100 police reports. They would show up with more than 4 cops. Completely terrorized me and my children, and no protection. But I did videotape 90% of it. and I do have all the evidence of how they treated me, including at the farm when they came and said, if you go through the gate, you're going to jail for trespassing, when I owned the gate. I was going to go to jail for trespassing on my own land.
And you were deeded and all? You had all the right papers,
I own
right?
the property still. It was
Outright.
during this foreclosure, but I still own the 4.5 acres. And the 90, I completely still own. But that's what they used. They used the fear of threats of my freedom and my liberty, my life, my children, to extort my property. And even up to the end, they came with a receiver, appointed receiver. His name was David Riley. He was appointed to protect the property. He called and said that I was starving horses. We had one sick horse, over 60 animals, and they took pictures of this sick horse and said I was starving horses. They should have picked something better than that. 134 acres, 70 acres of hay growing. The hay was 3 feet high at the time.
They couldn't be starving.
Physically impossible to starve animals. And they said there was no water, that they were living off of puddles, which is outrageous because a horse could die in a couple of days without water.
You had yourself all lined up with all the information. You had videotape recordings. You had a lot of
protected
paperwork.
myself.
You went as far as you could to protect yourself, and they
Yes.
still came after you.
2 years they charged me with cruelty to animals, destroy my reputation, tell the whole world. And if anyone knows horses, one, they're herding animals and they're grazing animals. They're not leaving their herd and they're not leaving the grass. And to say that there was no water and bring the fire department was ridiculous. There's 4 wells on my property. Miles long, $1 million irrigation system underground. There was 4 different ways to get water. What they did is they came and shut the electric off.
Stop the pumps from working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they set me up every which way, and then they came, SPCA, prior, a week before, the SPCA was there and found nothing wrong and saw the sick horse. Nothing wrong.
And they're a little bit more specialized to determine
week
whether
later.
there was a healthy horse or not.
Oh, he was sick.
Yeah.
He was sick. He was
Right.
27 years old. He was very sick. He was separated and isolated from the rest of the group. And they came the following week because of David Riley and said, they stood there and said, okay, Marie, you don't own the land anymore. Sign over all the animals. Leave the land right now, or CPS is waiting at the gate to take your 3 children. Which one do you want? And I'm like, where do I sign? I knew my animals were being sacrificed for my children, and I had to save my children. And
That's a choice you never want to
that
make.
I'm forever grateful to God, because He had mercy. They didn't take my children.
Because they were trying that. CPS was trying to do that too.
I can never get over not saving the animals, and that's where I want my justice. But I did save my children.
You said
And
they killed a pony and ducks and
They
things like
came back to Flanders. They killed a lot of animals on the farm. All of a sudden, I would tell everybody, make sure the chicken coop is locked. I would go out purposely to check that the house coop was locked. We come out the next morning and a chicken would be slaughtered. And okay, freak accident. It was a freak accident. They were coming slowly, letting them out on the Long Island Expressway, putting them out on Edwards Avenue, open the gate and chasing them across the street. They terrorized the farm and the animals, and I had no control, no support. The police would call me up and say, oh, your animals are out on Edwards Avenue. Okay, how do you know they're my animals? How many horses are out there? How do you know? In 2010, when they put them on the LIE, they're your horses. Out of all the horses on Long Island, how did you know they were mine if you weren't part of it? They gave me tickets instead of going and
they don't have a
investigating.
stamp on them or branded or anything like that, right?
No, but
Only you would know who they were.
right.
Right.
Exactly. I'd be the only one to know.
A stranger could not know.
Exactly. And especially the police.
Well, it's a good thing you got videos on a lot of this stuff. And
Yes, I'm very grateful to that. I kept control of that and protected it, and I even leave a lot of the stuff on the recorder just because I don't want them to say that you copied it and recopied it, so I just kept buying little recorders when I needed one for just
Right.
audio.
It's amazing. I want to congratulate you for your recent victory today and your different attitude. And
I am very grateful. I'm very humble. I did my crying for 3 hours. I'm very tired, but I'm grateful.
Go into a little bit more about the I Love God trailer, which is what the title of the show is, a visit to the I Love God trailer. What was that about? What drove you to do that? What's the response been? You know, how that whole thing
Well,
turned
my
out?
father, when he came, and they thought that I would never forgive my father. And I immediately forgave my father. And he handed over the keys and said, we stole the farm. And I said, how do I say thank you to God? I went and bought 99-cent cans of black spray paint from Walmart and got on the top of my truck and started painting. And it came out the way it did. There was no fancy artwork. It was just my hand, and got a little sloppy here and there. And it was already a little bit of graffiti, and I didn't know how to cover it, so I did a red heart. And it wound up coming out okay. But I didn't know that it was getting the response it was getting. I told my children I wrote something. They got mad at me, but because they didn't know what I wrote.
Yeah.
And when they pulled into the farm, they were already seeing Facebook and everything on the internet that people were hitting it up and seeing this trailer and writing what it did for them, how it changed them, and they cried or they prayed. And all these stories started coming out, and then my kids said, we love it. And then I would watch 50, 60 people a day pull over and take pictures. Some I would be able to catch and talk to and hear their story.
You set up a chair and...
I didn't set up a chair, but whenever I looked out, there was someone out there, and I'd run over and try to talk to them, and people would hang out and have lunch. It really was great. And it wasn't until the town sent me tickets, violated us, and 3 violations. One for unregistered vehicle, and then I had a fire truck that was the unregistered vehicle, which is a fire truck from 9/11 parade. And I wanted to use that as a prop. But that had a registration. It had historical plates on it. But I removed that because I didn't want to take the focus off the I Love You God. I was picking my fight with them. And then they gave me no rental permit in my own home. And so you could tell they were conspiring, joining in with the other side, acting like it's not my home. Well, oops, Sean Walter, you said, oh, you want to work with me? Why'd you give me a ticket for no registration, rental permit when it's my home? How do you get a no rental permit for your own home? Don't you think that's a little ridiculous?
It's crazy.
And then you want to talk about the unregistered vehicle? Then what about all the 20-something that's within walking distance from the farm that are unregistered? There are over 20. I took pictures. I haven't even begun to start taking the pictures everywhere.
So you're still not completely away from everything, but you pretty much got the basic primary information you needed this morning.
The fact that they finally confessed that the home was should have never been foreclosed on, the 4.5 acres, is a victory. And I'm forever grateful. I am humble. I have no words. I
think you're going to give back to the community like you always did, I would think.
It's time. It's time. Yeah. Our children are suffering. There is an epidemic. They need a place to go. They need a sanctuary. They need an Olympus-sized swimming pool. They need tennis, football, basketball, everything and anything need, including sneakers.
And you have plans to build something which I happen to see, and I'm hoping we can add this to the shoot at one point to get a picture of that complex that you're doing. But she's intending to build a complete complex for everyone so that they can.
Well, in 2007, when I found out that 1 out of 4 homeless people were a veteran, is when I designed the USA. It's 3 separate buildings shaped like a U, S, and an A. And that was going to be affordable housing for veterans.
Yeah, that's great. They have a place in Stony Brook, and I'm glad you're doing that. Thank you very much, Marie. I appreciate that, and I hope that program you did today really helps others think about what they can do when they have the opportunity. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. And by TV, you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to the TV every week. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.